Milk crate moments. Hey, what did you get from the pandemic? Right, a lot of us got shut down. We got not knowing where we were going to go, what was going to happen. And during the pandemic, I will tell you, I met one of the neatest people that I have met. That she just showed up one day in a free Facebook group that I started to help people during the pandemic. And that's Patrice Bowenzi. Hey, Patrice, how are you?
Hey, Jean. I'm
Thanks for
good.
being here.
That
Um,
Facebook group is a life changer.
well, thank you. But the reason I even mentioned it is that's really wanted to tie in how I met you, right? And honestly, it's we've kind of hung out and stuff, and we're kind of like almost the same people, like sisters from another mister, right? But
We are.
the funny thing is, our husbands are kind of alike too. Except yours
Yeah.
carries a gun, right? That's all I'm just saying. Yours carries a gun. So, and I love that about him. But anyway, today here to talk about milk crate moments. And Patrice, you and I have talked about this a lot of times, and what a milk crate moment is, and how it changes our not only our business, but it changes us. So today, I was hoping you would share your milk crate moment.
Yes, I would love to. I had a milk crate moment when I was a newer agent. I think I was in the industry maybe a year, and I was trying to break into the higher end properties. And I was given an opportunity to interview a for sale by owner. Actually, the home was in Naperville. She had it listed at 800,000, and I thought this was my opportunity. And I went in and I bedazzled them, and well, I thought I bedazzled them. However, by the time I left, they agreed to list with me, but I cut my commission so low. I did it, usual and standard commission isn't 1%. Okay.
Right.
So I took the listing and I justified it by saying, well, I'm trying to break into the high end Naperville market. I'm going to show everyone what I can do. Right.
Right.
But what I didn't understand because I was a new agent was that you can't, no money, no marketing money in the world can convince a buyer to pay more than the home is worth.
Right.
And I had missed so many flags from this seller, from the price she priced her home as a for sale by owner. Phrases like, well, you can't use comps in my neighborhood because my house is the biggest house in the neighborhood. But that's not true. You still have to stay within the neighborhood.
Right.
And I'm a high I, I'm an influencer. So I took it as a challenge because I was going to be superwoman and all these things. So I took the listing, we listed it. Um, we got our first offer was $699. They were offended. They were mad at me. Um, whatever. We just didn't take the offer. So then I decided that I was going to print brochures and I mailed them to every headhunter and every doctor, school for physicians and headhunters for physicians. I spent $2,000 marketing this property.
Holy cow.
Yeah, yeah. So then I did convince them to lower the price, and we got another offer, and we got an offer at 725 cash, which was a phenomenal offer because the market started to change, and they were offended and they wouldn't take it. But in the meantime, she was sending me videos of what other agents were doing on their listings. She was telling me what I was doing wrong. I didn't have the wording right. She wanted to write the description. So this is where my milk crate moment came in. I sat down. We did this for about 6 months. Got her two offers. She wasn't happy with anything. Spent thousands and thousands of dollars on marketing. And then I realized that I didn't have any idea what my value was. I wasn't confident in what I brought to the table because I am a good agent, but I couldn't say that back then. I was at her mercy. I was literally her puppet. So I reduced my commission to allow someone to pull my puppet strings.
Hmm.
And I learned that if I was going to be a top producing agent, I needed to see my value. I was not a discount broker. Um, I am not someone's puppet. And I needed to learn how to manage clients and be able to set faulty expectations, or I would be exhausted, sick, and a broke realtor. So that was my milk crate moment. So that gave me the courage after she did not take the 725 offer. I said, this is what we're going to do. You're either going to call in an independent appraiser and appraise your property, or you need to contact another agent. And Of course, they contacted another agent. I released the listing. And then of course, I watched it, right? Because I told her the property was going to sell like at $699. And that's what it should have sold for. But by the time she didn't listen to me, the new agent came in and listed it at $699. And being totally transparent, that's when you're like, well, I hope it doesn't sell in a weekend. It didn't. It ended up selling at $653.
Wow. And she turned down a 725 cash offer.
Sure did.
So let's go back for just a moment, because what I heard you say is, I wasn't a good agent then. You were a really good agent then. You were right on the dot, right? Right.
What?
She just couldn't. Actually, it wasn't her. I think it was you probably then that couldn't
Lack
see
of confidence.
that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, Patrice. I don't know that I knew that story.
Yeah.
Right?
That was tough. I mean, and I never chase a commission check, because that's just bad business when you do that. You want to serve and lead, right?
Yeah.
But
Well, can we talk about that for just a minute? Because right before this call, before the podcast started, you and I were chatting a little bit, and you said, I never buy my listings. And so could you explain what that means? Because it did not say to me what you said to me. So when you say I don't buy my listings, what does that mean from an agent's perspective?
that means you you meet with the seller and you do all your comps. And your comps, when you sell a home, you have to sell it to the bank appraiser. You need historical data to prove the price.
Right.
And if you want to list higher, you have to justify to the appraiser why you added value or what your seller did. So sometimes an agent will go into like a $500,000 house and tell the seller that they can sell it for $650. I won't do that. I would come in and say, we're going to sell right around 600. We should list it at 635, 645, whatever. But you're probably going to end up with 600. And buying the listing is the agent tells the seller that they can sell it for more money. And then in like 2 or 3 weeks, they'll come back to the seller and say, oh, the market's not really jiving with our price. We need to reduce it. So it's just a way for them to get the listing, honestly. And,
Right.
And I don't think it's integrity. So how would you trust me as an agent?
Exactly. Right. So no, what I know of you, you are at the highest level of integrity, right? I think that's your core value, and it's my number one core value. So I think that's probably why we're friends.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So who helped you through that? Was there anybody there that helped you through that milk crate moment so that you could come through it and not hate on yourself for the next, year?
Yes. So my business partner now, Beth Lindner, and at the time she was my mentor, and we talked about it a long time. And she's like, listen, sometimes it just doesn't work out. You have to be able to let those clients go. You have to have enough courage to fire an agent, fire a seller. And the interesting thing, I had full support from her. So she even helped me like come up with the verbiage on what to say. And I did it, and it was great. And after I fired that seller, it was so bad, Jean, I had to change my ringtone. So when she called me, I had to deep breathe for 5 seconds because it was that bad. Like, it was always a complaint. There was nothing done right. But once I did that and it was done, I felt so much relief and peace that I was able to prospect, and my business just skyrocketed. I was able to engage emotionally, creativity came back, all that stuff.
Oh
So
my
I was
gosh.
holding myself back because I was so focused on winning her over. I don't have to win everyone over. We're not a good fit.
Yeah. So so this is 2023. We're doing this in May of 2023. How did you end 2021, 2020, and 2022?
Oh gosh. So right before COVID, I was at 5 million. And then I stumbled on the Strategy Sphere, your Facebook group. And it was so funny because a mutual friend of ours invited me. She's like, you have to be in this group. And I joined. And then I think it was maybe a week later, I get a private message from you. And you're like, this group participates. If you're not going to participate, you can't be in the group. I'm like, wait a minute. I don't even know what we're participating in. And then you're like, oh, you didn't come in through the right link. So I didn't have any information. So it was so funny.
But that sounds like me, though, doesn't it? Something I would say, right?
No, but it was great because you held us accountable during COVID.
Mhm.
So the first year of COVID, I out earned my business partner, and she's been in the industry 23 years. Um,
Wow.
yeah, so my sales went like from 5 million to 13, 12 million, and then last year was 13.
Congratulations, Patrice. What did that do for your business? In I d- Listen, I want to know what kind of awards you got from Fathom. Where did you fall in there? I will. So
Okay, last year I was the top producing agent in the state of Illinois, the single agent. This year I was number 2, and I'm a little salty about it because the guy who took number 1 does have a team and some of his agents right under his name, but he deserves it. He's a great agent. But our team was the top team in Illinois. Beth and I sold 23 million in real estate, and I sold 13 million of that.
wow,
Yeah,
wow. So you outperformed her again.
I did.
Yeah. Oh,
I
very
did.
cool. So, so what would you say to somebody who's really struggling with that? Because I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they will sell on price because they're so afraid of not getting the sale. So they'll reduce their price. They will to the very bare minimum where they're really not making anything. What would you say to that entrepreneur now, about selling on price rather than on value?
Right. Well, now because of my confidence, I'm worth every part of my commission. I just am. The way I prepare the properties, the way I bring in the experts, whether it's a stager, drones, whatever, I spend a lot of money up front on my listings. But that was a hard thing for me because
Mhm.
again, I have to be honest. When you see like commission, you're thinking, wow, that's a lot of money. But when you break it down into what you provide and the services and all the other fees you have to pay and the taxes, it's really not. But until you can decide that you would pay yourself for the very thing that you are providing, how can you sell it to someone else?
Right.
Right?
Right. I get you, right? So, I love that. So if you wouldn't buy it yourself at that price, you can't sell it at that price, right?
Exactly.
And but I do think that entrepreneurs struggle with that too because they're like, I wouldn't pay that much for that.
Oh, they do. I
Oh
have
yeah,
agents in my office that, want to keep reducing their commission. But I think we all make that mistake as new agents and maybe new entrepreneurs.
absolutely.
And in the real estate world, I had to put so many hundreds, if not thousands of dollars out just to start. And I think another mistake entrepreneurs make is they don't have enough startup costs. So
Startup
like,
capital,
yeah,
because
startup.
they have plenty of startup costs.
Yeah, I'm sorry, startup capital. You're right. Like feel like I gotta pay fees. I had joined NAR. Yeah. And
Yeah,
a lot of times they don't have that capital. And then
right.
they're so worried about getting a sale because their bank accounts. But you can't chase that. You always have to lead with value.
And that's another piece, right? They spend the money that they did have for marketing, and then they're selling from a place of desperation,
Exactly.
and nobody wants to buy from somebody from a place of desperation, right?
The consumer can read that immediately.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They just do.
Yeah. So, and I think that that's what happens too, though, and that might have happened a little bit. That might have happened a little bit from you where you were not feeling as confident, right?
Oh, yeah,
She knew it, right? So she could manipulate you, telling you all of the mistakes you were making, even though that home sold for less than she was offered for a cash deal. Who's
exactly.
the fool, right?
Exactly. And
Yeah,
now did it make me feel better? Did it justify me? If any, I didn't listen, even if a seller and I don't work out, I want the best for them. I
I
mean,
know.
these are people's livelihood, right?
I know.
But what it did for me is it just gave me more confident that I had the right formula. I was
Right.
I was right with what I told her. Like because it's not don't ever believe it's a science in real estate. It's not black and white because you can do all the comps in the world and it's based upon what someone's willing to pay for your property.
Exactly.
It's
Right.
timing, it's need, there's a lot of different things.
Ah, I love that.
Yeah.
So let's not leave. So before I ask you two more things. Number one is tell me the funniest story in the real estate that you've had being a real estate agent.
Gosh.
The
This
funniest,
still
right?
this
You
still
don't have to
makes
use any names.
no, I well, I don't even remember. This still brings chills to the back of my neck. So I was a new agent. I was working with a buyer, and I had scheduled a couple appointments, and I saw on one of the listings that it said that it needed a 24-hour notice. But when I requested the appointment, I requested it for 24 hours, but I forgot. I wrote down on my listing sheet that I had a confirmed appointment for the wrong date. I had it for a day early.
Oh no.
So I bring my clients in. Now that's a huge fine. That's like a $2,500 fine. Okay. So I bring my clients in with their kids, and there's pit bulls underneath the desk. She fostered pit bulls. And we're walking through the house. I'm like, oh, that's weird. She left the dogs out. I had no idea. So I left. Everything was fine. No one got hurt until the seller calls me and want to know what I was doing in her house. That I could have been hurt. The dogs are aggressive. I didn't have a confirmed appointment. I called Beth. I was in tears. I'm like, I'm gonna lose my license. I just got started. And she goes, okay. She goes, just breathe. She goes, take responsibility, call the listing agent, tell her what happened, and we'll just figure it out. It was a mistake. So I
Right.
called the listing agent. I told her what happened. And the first thing she said to me is, Patrice, breathe. She said, it's happened to all of us. Welcome to the club. She goes, yes, my seller's upset. She'll be okay. And then of course I sent the listing agent a gift card so the sellers can go out for dinner because I just felt so bad.
Sure. Oh man, that is kind of funny. Although it could have been really tragic
Oh, terrible.
when you're
So
going in
now
with little kids and stuff. Yeah.
So now every time from that day on, every time I have a showing, the day of the showing, I go back in and confirm I have the right date on my sheet, and then I'm confirmed, and I highlight my time so I know that I'm okay to go in.
Oh my goodness, that's funny. All right. As we wrap this up, what is the biggest piece of advice you can give a fellow entrepreneur, regardless of what kind of business that they are in, when they're struggling?
Mindset. It's all about self-talk. When I started, I decided I want to be a top producing listing agent. I would stand in the mirror every morning and say, okay, you're a top producing listing agent. And then I'd go, I wonder what they do all day because I didn't have any sellers. But then I did things like I prepared 5 listing packets. I bought 5 signs. And I'm like, okay, this is my goal. I'm gonna have 5 appointments and I'm gonna hang all my 5 signs all at once. But it's totally mindset. No matter if you're having a good year or a bad year, it's still all mindset.
I
Because
love
what
it.
you believe you get.
I love it. Well, Patrice, Patrice, thank you so much for being here today, for being my special guest on my podcast. I'm so happy that you're here and you just had such great information for all of us today. And again, I think the big lesson here was don't undercut your price
Mhm.
because you're worth so much more than you're probably charging to start with.
Agree. Agree.
Awesome.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much for the opportunity.
Oh, thanks for coming. I will talk to you soon. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye bye.